Hello, in this video we'll be covering the integration process between the physical printer and the programming language that you're developing on. For this example, we'll be using Visual Studio 2013 as the IDE and Visual Basic as the programming language. It is greatly advised that you first see our Step 1 video where you will find the minimum requirements needed to be able to do this integration. So for starters, we're going to click Start and open our IDE. In this case is Visual Studio 2013. Then we're just going to start a new project, so we can do that clicking File, New Project. We're going to go ahead and create a Windows form application. That's going to bring us to our basic interface. First thing we got to do is do the reference to the library that we're going to be using. So in this case, we're going to right click on the project, go to Add, Reference, and then we're just going to browse for the DLL file. In this case, we have it on Desktop Library, tfhkanet.dll. We're going to go ahead and add that. As you can see here, it's been added successfully. We click OK. Now the reference has been done. So let's just now add some basic components that we're going to be using to create a basic interface. First, let's add a combo box. Here we're going to list the different COM ports that we're going to be using. So we're just going to, for this example, we'll be adding from COM1 to COM4. I'll go ahead and click OK. Now we're going to add two buttons. These two buttons will be used for opening and closing the port that we're going to select on the combo box. So let's just change the text over here, open, so it's easier to understand. And this one we're going to put it as closed. Next, we can add a text box, and this text box will be used for sending commands to the printer. Finally, we can add a third button that's going to be used for sending the commands that we write on the text box. After this is done, we're ready to add some coding to the form. So we're going to go ahead and double click our form. And before adding any coding to the components, we're going to import two of the sections that we're going to be using from the library that we imported. So the first and most important one is the tfhka.if. And the second one that we're going to be using is the specific importation for the country that we're working for. For this example, we're going to be using Curacao as the example. So we're going to go ahead and import tfhka.if.cw. After that, we're going to create, inside of our class, we're going to create two variables that we're going to be using. First of all is the namespace for the printer, which we can be using any name that we want, as the object tfhka. And the second one is a response variable. The majority of the functions that we're going to be using from the library, they give a response, and with this variable, we're going to be able to control if the last command was sent successfully or not. Finally, on our form load, we're going to initiate the object by writing printer as new tfhka. So now we're ready to add some coding to the components. So first of all, we're going to add the coding for open. And as we reference on the manual, let's open the library manual real quick over here. And if we go to the open port section, you'll see that it says that the name of the function is openfpctrl, and that it's a Boolean file, a Boolean function. So we're going to be using this one for opening the port. So it's openfpctrl. So in this case, we're going to be using the object that we created, dot, and then we're going to access to the function openfpctrl. As you can see, when you open your parentheses, it asks you as a parameter the port as string. So in this case, we're going to be using the text that is written on the combo box that we previously created. So to do this, we just write combo box1 .txt text. So that's done over there. So now let's add some coding for the close button, and that would be printer.close fpctrl. If you consult the library manual, you can see that this is a void function, so it's not going to return anything, so we don't need to store it on any variable. For example, for the first one, remember that the variable that we created, the response variable, we can save the response from the function here, and we'll be able to know with this variable if this function was executed correctly. So now let's add some coding for the send command, and if you reference in the manual as well, you can find over here the sendcmd command. Sendcmd function is a Boolean function and is used for sending the commands to the printer. So in this case, we're going to be sending whatever we're writing on the text box. So in this case, it will be printer.sendcmd, and we're going to write here whatever is written on the text box.